live on those platforms. Okay, hello to everyone across the world. um, I think this does it justice. I was supposed to hold service today, but I was invited to Gulfport Unity, and now I'm sitting with Bree, and she asked a question about rebirth. So I decided to go live so that I can give a talk on rebirth. So if you want to repeat your question for everyone to hear.
Yeah. My question was, does gender have any influence? Like, does karma influence your gender in your next life?
Hmm. So the rebirth of becoming human is a favorable rebirth realm. However, there are we can see that, for example, there are poor kids in Africa that is crawling on the dirt right now as we speak, um, trying to uh, gather food and water. I mean, bones. I think everyone has seen that across TV and everything else when they featured some of these children that's crawling with their bones sticking out. Very malnutrition. Um, we can see certain races being oppressed in the world. So it's not just gender. There's the whole variety of factors about race, color, religion, discrimination, oppression, and so on. And this is what sparks wise fear about the rebirth realms is that depending on your karma that you have accumulated in your past life, but most importantly in this very life, and based upon the remainder of that negative karma, determines your next rebirth. Whether you're going to be black, white, Puerto Rican, Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, whatever, Thai, Laos, and so on. Happy Laos New Year to all of you, by the way. It's Laos New Year right now. So the hope is that this is why we all have to be fortunate and really see the word gratefulness and how fortunate all of us are to be here. And especially if you're watching in America, how good we got it here in America. Um, but because we're talking about gender, let me just use this example. Probably not a good example, but just bear with me because this is a lot of examples I can use. But right now, this comes up in my mind. For those who do not keep the precept, for example, the precept of sexual misconduct, if you commit sexual misconduct in your past life, in this life, you will be addicted to sex.
Mm.
That desire carries over. There's a remaining balance of that desire that carries over in the next life. Okay. There's other examples too, but I just don't want to go far with it. Um, it might have people scratch their head and like, huh? So what was my last talk? Well, since we're talking about gender, let me also use my own example as I'm still alive and living. Is that you know I I am blessed in this lifetime to have been born Vietnamese and male, um, no health problems. My body is effective and efficient. Um, I don't even have body odor. I don't even have hair on my skin. Okay. So what do I do with this body? What do I do with this male gender body that everything is functioning well, right? And people are like, "Oh, you're handsome. You're gonna get married." And no, I'm not gonna get married. No, I'm not gonna have kids. I hear a lot of that, and of course, my parents always try to rig me with some Viet girl That never worked. They still have hope that I'm going to disrobe and get married. And I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids because I am blessed in this lifetime to have been this human gift that I am here. So therefore, I know that, and I will dedicate my body, speech, and mind for the benefit of other people. I will give more and take less. I will sacrifice pleasure so that I pleasure, desire, all the worldly things that all of us love and cherish, and whatever the case may be. Some of the foolish things that people do out there. I mean, you all see it. They just self-indulge. It's all about me, my perfume, my money, my Rolex, my Rolls Royce, my. But that runs out. That luck runs out. That good karma runs out. Also known as the demigods realm. So they get to experience the demigods realm in the human realm, because the kingdom of heaven is to be realized here on earth, here and now. So if you are a millionaire right now, and at the time of this talk, then you were blessed with an abundance of karmic, currency from your previous life, where which you gave more, you gave so much to so many people that that positive karmic currency, positive karmic bank rolled over to this life. So it's what, and then all people also ask me this is that, well, how come certain leaders and presidents get to enjoy whatever the hell they enjoy this long, and karma seems to take their sweet ass time to catch up to them? I've got questions like that. Those are their words, not my words. I'm just repeating what was written in the public comments. So, I'm not trying to like use profanity. However, that's my explanation to those people is that, yeah, certain presidents and certain leaders who, obviously not living a judicious life now, obviously not exemplifying the 10 qualities of a leader like the Buddha has described. They took advantage of their position, and they're in a bathtub filled with naked women and counting money and gold. Hell, they probably have a gold toilet, gold toothbrush, gold whatever. So they're enjoying that demigod's realm, and the demigod's realm is pleasure, sensual pleasure. But once in a while, a Buddha appears, the Buddha or a Buddha appears in the demigod's realm, and they all are like, "Oh my God, no! Oh my God, Buddha is here, and he's going to tell us all about impermanence because we know this is going to expire." So, and it will. It's going to expire. You're not going to enjoy this for long, and they know that. The demigods know that, right? So again, the Buddha did not lie about the Four Noble Truth, and the Four Noble Truth is up for examination for everybody to see how noble the truth actually really is and how it is empirical and observable. So therefore, what evidence do we have to say that when he described the six realms of rebirth is fake? It's
Yeah.
it's not. And as we're talking about karma and rebirth, I'm wearing the exact same Crocs that I stepped on those two nails. Remember, I spoke about me stepping on. So I bought this from Vietnam, and I'm not sure if the quality in Vietnam of Crocs is the same as the Crocs here in the U.S. I'm holding up my Crocs. Everyone can see my Crocs here. Okay. But two nails, this left one, this is my left foot Croc. Two nails went into this Crocs in two different places. And I have five regular human toes, and it did not penetrate my toes
Well,
at the
that's good.
monastery, at Wat Dondu. So when I felt this little thing in there, and I'm like, oh, it felt like wooden sticks, because if anyone that has Crocs and worn Crocs, you sometimes we walk through the grass or whatever, and sometimes we pick up little small twigs and sticks, and I'm like, oh, it's probably. I picked it up and I like shaked it, and nothing fell out, and I put my hands in there, and I'm like, that's definitely metal. The nails were this long. Karma is real. How did I dodge two nails that penetrated 1.5 inch Crocs? Now you look at my whole life, right? Which I have opened for examination. I said, go ahead, find someone out there that grew up with me. because my face is now public face
Yeah.
with millions of people following and watching. Okay, so it's like it's not like I'm just like appeared out of I'm like I'm not from Africa. I'm not from Lithuania or anything. I'm from here, St. Petersburg, Florida. Like my whole history is here. And so I've challenged the entire world because I've lived a judicious life. So I've challenged the whole world. Find it. Find where I went, south in treating people. Find where I was this horrendous monster that think or suspect that I am. Okay, you don't dodge these type of things. You, young lady, got into an accident recently where you dodged great significant possible human injuries. I got into 12 car accidents in my life. Six of it was not my fault. Six of it was my fault. Six of it well, I mean, they were all total. I don't think that there was ever. I can't remember, but I still have pictures of the Mazda 626, um, the town car. There's all of these. The Corolla that was hit by a DUI driver. The most significant injuries I ever sustained for years, for almost 10 years, was a low back disc herniation. That was no joke.
Oh yeah, I've heard of
So,
those issues happening.
but that resolved 10 years of chiropractic treatment. Okay. My point is, and I made a video the other day out on TikTok about, how I went 2 months and nobody called me. I was left at peace.
Mm.
My phone was on. How I mean, I have my calendars right here. I'll show you my physical calendar right here. Before I left for Vietnam and Laos and Thailand, phone calls every single day, phone calls in and out all the time. Then I go and I needed a spiritual retreat. Karma knows that. Karma goes, block, no phone calls for the Venerable Cheat Out. No more cases. And really, no more cases. And some of the active cases that I was working went quiet and silent. How do you explain
Maybe
that? How do you
resolve
explain?
themselves.
You know what I mean? It's like Lord Karma is really watching out for me. Okay. But it's not about me. It's about everybody. It's about y'all. It's about this teaching. So therefore, if you observe closely enough to one's karma, one's suffering, you will see the direct evidence of how real and fast it is. And when I suffered that sore throat towards the end of my trip and stuff like that, I realized, well, there is remaining negative karma from when I went hunting in my younger days. I mean, I've killed a lot of birds hunting. I killed boars and birds and lizards. I was a boy with a BB gun, and I was a boy with these types of sports that boys engage in. So I caused suffering to other sentient beings. And the Buddha says, if you do that, your life will too be shortened and you will subject to physical suffering, and that I am still suffering. So who am I to blame? Me, because I did it. I did it. So therefore, your question comes very good. That where we are at now, this is why this is the turning point. This is a turning point to say, you know, go do what you do, go play how you play, but then at some point realize that, all right, I think I've done it all. The clubbing, the sex, the drugs, whatever it is that y'all out there doing, and then realize that, okay, well, you also have an expiration date. And you know what? Now's a turning point for you to figure this enlightenment thing out quickly. Because if you think you're gonna enjoy this again, negatively or positively, think again. Or you know what? Just wait until your next rebirth. All right. So then, if we look at the animal realm, one of the rebirth realm is the animal realm. We can see that dogs and cats and fish and zebra and donkeys and monkeys, they can think, they know, They know what's happening. They can feel. They cry. They commit suicide. Like we've seen these things. So one must ask, wow, they are conscious. They know what is unfolding. One which knows. In Buddhism, we assert that every single living animal used to be humans
So that's right, yeah. Like at least at one point.
at one point. So therefore, if you want to play with karma, you may be black in your next life. You may be purple in your next life. You may be Asian, whether you like it or not. You may be this. You may be that. You may da, whatever. You know. So therefore, purify your mind. Do as much good that you're doing, and of course, you young lady that I'm talking to, you are the only one that gives more and take less every week or every 2 weeks. You send into the donations that you do to keep the sangha going. And but even with you giving this much until present day, even you declared a saint under this school, you can see that your karma is still like, and and it's like, huh? And me too, right? We're in the same boat because sometimes I'm not, sometimes things happen like the car, my car with like all these lights are turning on, and I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? What more do you want from me? I've already given up everything. I am a monk. I sit there and have a conversation with karma, and I'm like, but then I go back to the same teaching I said last week, which is, Venerable Chidao, let me remind you something. You're experiencing all of this because you took rebirth as a human. You took rebirth as a human because you did something unwholesome in your last life and you did not understand the Four Noble Truths in your last life. And that is the root cause of the problem. So therefore, Venerable Chidao, if you don't want to take rebirth anymore, well, then achieve enlightenment once and for all so you don't come back in another human realm and experience COVID again. So that's how I comfort myself. It's a really hard knock. It's a really hard look at one's current present state, but it's true.
Yeah,
But it
I mean
is
that's what I was telling people.
what we don't want
Looked
to
at me
do.
like I was crazy.
Right. What we don't want to do is say, well, what the hell? Well, my karma is already this much, or it may be so bad and worse. I'm just going to leave it alone and let it be. Of which I've seen people done that. And it doesn't get any better. It gets worse. I'm telling you, I've been following certain people. And oh my goodness. And they just don't know when to stop and turn their life around. They just continue on this path, this ignorant, willful path. And I'm telling you, the lightning of karma is no joke. The lightning of karma is no joke. The other thing I want to speak about is the collective karmic effects on a country. So I don't think Thailand and Laos really ever on the news for natural disasters incomparable to other countries. What I'm saying is subject to investigation and verification. It is not wholly 100% accurate, as I'm also making postulations. But, like other countries like Vietnam, who have the existence of corruptions and wrongdoings and not keeping the precepts, and other countries who are not keeping the precepts, like Japan, we just recently had an earthquake up in the New Jersey. They also don't keep precepts in New Jersey because a lot of stolen cars there, auto theft task force, and borderline with New York, where the crime rate's so high that the malls are closing and even the dollar store is closing in New York. So therefore, think about it. These are locations where people don't keep the precepts, and karma decided to, hey, you know what? Well, guess what? Watch this earthquake. Watch it unfolding, and it's happening where crime rates are the highest.
Yeah.
You look at Laos, and karma seems to leave Laos alone. And I was in Laos, and Laos won my heart.
I've heard it's beautiful.
So sit there and think about the geographic locations of the collective whole on this large scale. You really got to think about that. Most Westerners do not think about that. And they're like, why do we have this? Why do we have earthquakes? Why do we have sinkholes? Why do we have these places? And you turn around and you start asking, you're like, yeah, well, how many Buddhists live there? And how many people keep the precept or even the Ten Commandments there? If you're a Christian, do you keep the Ten Commandments? Well, who do you blame when crap hits the fan? Or
Do
God
you
is.
think that I was gonna say, do you think that behavior of Westerners is somewhat defined by the idea that they somehow divinely have right to that land?
Now we're talking about land.
Yeah, I always get into conversations where they're like, we we have like this is some God's country. We have divine right to it, so we can do whatever we want to it. Because like I can't tell you how many times I've heard that like you can do whatever you want to animals because the animals were put on Earth for people, and so it doesn't matter what you do to them. And I've always wondered like how much of that influences like a general population of a country.
But we also do a lot of things that is right. We also protect animals' rights. And
That's
this
true,
and
yeah. And national parks.
this statement comes from my mom. My mom goes, this is why Americans are comfortable, and we are, and typical Americans. Even if you're poor, or if you go to jail and prison, you're quite comfortable in there. You get fed 3 times a day. You get clothes. Even if you're poor, the hospital will pay for the government will pay for the hospital bills and all the amenities and all of the good things that we Americans enjoy here in the U.S. Why? And my mom goes, well, my mom goes, well, that's because Americans protect rights of animals. They have ASPCA and they even have ASPCA cops. You see that? They value sentient beings. And yes, that is true and correct. Whereas in my country, they eat, you know, up in the north, they eat dogs.
Yeah.
So therefore there's floodings and there's all these sort of things that's happening there. You know. So, but America is less than 300 years old. It's very young,
It's a baby, yeah.
still very ignorant. Everyone can agree to that statement. That's not me condemning the US. That's me just generally describing adjective of American civilization. And I hope to liberate as much as Americans as I can. I love American people. I owe it to this country to give me the education that I have received and the freedom of religion and all of the constitutional rights. And so I love American people. I love America, and I'm trying to wake everybody up so that y'all don't take rebirth. I'm telling you, that rebirth is no joke. My grand, yeah, like I said, my grand. I think somebody wrote a comment when I described after my grandmother died. She took instant rebirth into a lizard. She took instantaneous rebirth into a lizard. As soon as I got home from Northside Hospital, we lived on 58th Avenue and 34th Street, Northside Hospital, 58th Avenue, and 49th Street. So we lived literally like 15 blocks from the hospital. Grandmother died in 2015. I went home. There's never a lizard in the house.
There was a lizard in the house?
There is a lizard directly on the couch where you rest your arm. And I'm like, Grandma, don't play with me. And I know it was Grandma because my grandmother knows that my mom is afraid of lizards. So she took rebirth. I don't know how she took rebirth into exactly a lizard, but and then I'm playing with this lizard and I'm like, oh, okay. I have really mixed emotions right now. I'm angry that my grandmother just died. I'm sad. I'm depressed. I don't know what's going on. And at the time, I was holding a position of a supervisor for the security company. So, obviously I have a gun. And It's this huge Glock 21 that I'm carrying, and I'm just like, I got all this mixed emotion. My grandmother just died, so I'm like, you know what, this lizard. I'm like, I'm gonna try to scare you away. Um, so I drew my gun on the lizard, and I pointed right at the lizard. The Glock 21 is a 45 caliber Glock. That bullet is like this big. Okay, and this lizard looked at me and just looked sideways like this, and I was like, "Excuse me."
You're like, Grandma?
And I had instant regret, and I realized, oh, I just pointed a gun at my relative. I'm like, okay, all right, I sincerely apologize. And that's when I realized, well, it was my grandmother, because any other lizard would run away. Yeah, man, how close that
That's
barrel
true.
was to that lizard? It was really close to that lizard. Okay, obviously I wasn't gonna shoot this lizard inside my home, you know. But then, then, look at these. Look at this sequential chain of events. Then I go in my parents' room, and the lights start flickering. And then, by the way, the lizard disappears. I go and I
Oh,
change.
perfect. Yeah.
I go and I change. I'm just trying to, like, my grandmother just died, so I'm like trying to change, and I'm just like, I cannot believe she died. So I'm going to change, and I come back out. The lizard disappeared without a trace. I also had a flash. I got this thing. I'm always losing stuff. So I got this. That's just right here. See, I always have a flashlight, and I'm always looking for stuff because I'm always losing stuff. And everything I have is mostly black in color, like, black phone, black wallet, black backpack that's right here. So I'm always like, have anyone seen my keys? And the home is always having low lighting settings, right? So, I'm looking for this lizard, and I'm like, this lizard was just here. It was gone. I have reason to believe she took rebirth into the hungry ghost realm. Okay,
Mm.
I go in my parents' room, and the lights flickering, and I was like, what in the gay hell? The lights are LED. They don't ever flicker for the longest time that we've lived there. Ever. I'm in my parents' room, in and out, cleaning, vacuuming, and I'm like, really, really. So I'm like scared and then angry, scared, and vacillating emotions because my grandmother just died. Uh, and then I'm like, I'll be damned. The next day, again, the hungry ghost realm. She's still lingering around. I'm sitting there, and there's the window right there at the dining table where we usually have conversations, and I'm sitting there trying to absorb. That morning, I cried. That morning, I realized I lost my grandmother. I was in shock.
Yeah.
The night before, I was trying to just, well, I was really not myself. And then the next morning, I realized, oh my God, she's not here anymore. So I go and I sit and have milk or something like that, sitting there at the table, and I see this shadow. There was a shadow of a woman where the car garage port was, whatever.
Hmm.
I know what I saw, and it was a woman. It was a shadow of a woman, long hair. I know what I saw. I've been meditating for a long time. I know what I saw. And as soon as that shadow went, and I could make out on the corner of my eye that it was a woman, and it just went. I'm like, my eyes tripping. What? Okay. All right. So the latest news that we have, the most scariest latest news that we have for those who believe in ghosts. Um, what is it? Tennessee, Gatlin, the Battle of Gettysburg. Where's that at? Tennessee, right?
Battle of Gettysburg is in Pennsylvania, I think.
Oh, dang. Yeah, not a
I
hit.
think. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Okay. So there are videos, right? So somebody drove by, and he had done said, I've seen ghosts all the time crossing the street. So one night he decided to video record, and it's on there. It's on there. Ghost at Battle of. Let me verify it. Ghost at Battle
I can Google it.
of Gettysburg. Gettysburg. Haunted Gettysburg. Tourist capture sighting. Yep. All right. So on abc334.com, abc3340.com, or if you just Google Ghost at Battle of Gettysburg, on September 17, 2020. Is this a different one or yeah, 2020? Okay, here we go. Or if you put in YouTube, spooky moment ghost appear to run across Gettysburg Field. Spooky moment ghost appear to run across Gettysburg Field. Okay, so the teaching of the Buddha says that there's the hungry ghost realm, and this is not the first time I have investigated ghosts, but here we have empirical evidence of literally like 3 or 4 ghosts jumping from the cannon. 3 or 4 of them, not one. Okay. Before leaving for Vietnam, I went to a 511 store to buy outdoor clothes. The representative there was a former canine sheriff deputy that I believe worked for Manatee or Sarasota Sheriff's Office. It has been adjudicated that he is in the right mind at the time of the talk. He was not intoxicated, under the influence, or have existent of mental illness. Okay, I have a psychology degree. I know when someone is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. The former canine deputy tells me he goes to this barn where the history was the barn burned down, and the grandfather and the granddaughter, or whatever, passed away. They died in the fire. So one night he goes there as a deputy in his canine SUV, and he sees them sitting there in front of his where his light is shining. The teachings of the Buddha says if you have desire at the moment of death, obviously these ghosts had desire to be there. A desire that this was my land, a desire that this is where I love, this is where I reside, this is where I live. And fire took them in an instant. And therefore they rebirth into the hungry ghost realm. So they just kind of like hang out there. And it was just very sad. In Vietnam, there are people who jumped off rocks and died in the ocean on or around. Like we have these makeshift memorials everywhere. You obviously know when people have died there. And when you get close to it, you feel this energy that the ghost is still there. They want to let you know that they're very sad, that they lost their life suddenly. I drove from Nha Trang City to Ho Chi Minh City and then back. There was one road, and I was just like, "What's happening here?" It was like for like 5 miles straight, there were drawings on the ground. Every mile in that 5 mile stretch, there were drawings on the ground indicating that these people died by accidents. When I went and took that road trip 10 years ago, people were very reckless, and traffic law just like didn't exist. And that road, I was very sad. I was very sad because the ghosts were still there.
Yeah,
It,
I mean, it makes sense.
it emanated this energy that we died here. So I have great respect for ghosts. And, these are the collective stories in my life in investigating ghosts and the many more um, ghost stories that, just have permeated the existence of it circulating. But yeah, but anyone who is interested in looking at the rebirth realms, look very carefully because the Buddha was not wrong when he described the rebirth realms.
So, like, maybe you can answer this then. And for the longest time, well, as long as I can remember, I every once in a while, I've heard other people call them this, and I've called them this for as long as I can remember too, because it's the only word I can really think of to call them. But I've always seen what I call shadow people, but I only see them. I never see them straight on. I only see them out of the corner of my eye, and I can always sense that they're there right before I see them physically. But the moment I look at them, they disappear. Is that a hungry ghost, or am I just crazy?
No, I mean, sometimes they expose themselves to you more than other people. I mean, whatever the case may be.
Like it was never malicious, um, or anything, and they never did anything. I would just see like it would be like a shadow in a place where shadows shouldn't be, and then
Well,
they'd
you
just be
well, the
gone.
first thing is to rule out from a clinical psychology standpoint, which is, number one, does a person also watch a lot of scary movies or ghosts and stuff like that? Because that has
I do watch scary movies.
right. So sometimes our memory, the way how the memory works, and the projected images that we have, and the expectations of images that we have, sometimes it can fool us. So one wants to take a, that's why we have the precept of refrain from entertainment, so that the
Yeah,
mind can be clear, and not tripping and not delusional, and to see things as they are clearly, and whatever you see, that you see, um and what you saw and what you suspect, and you know but a lot of these experiences vary. But the first thing I do is to ask students, do you watch a lot of scary movies? A
I
lot of,
literally watched two scary movies yesterday. So yes,
yeah. So it's
I've been watching scary movies since I was a little kid.
right. So it's
So maybe that's why.
yeah. So it's constantly feeding in your head. It's hard to say that this is an accurate impression. Versus the mind is always, the faculties are always taking in information, taking in images, and so
Like conjuring and stuff.
yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
Well, so then with the rebirth realms, and because you started the conversation with this, and it kind of made me think of it. You were talking about like if somebody had committed a an action of sexual misconduct, in their next life, they could be addicted to sex or addicted to, those kind of things. Um, would that explain a lot of like severe serial killers like Ted Bundy and stuff like that, because they seem to be entirely controlled by their sexual desires?
Yeah, it's really sad. It's really, really, really sad when we talk about these types of addictions and violent, sexual deviant behaviors. But so we were designed to procreate a lot of times in a day with a lot of people. That's how our species survived. However, it can get out of hand and control, and we can cause harm to other people when it is not consensual. Um, and thus, we see the human realm behave like the animal realm, where we don't exercise our discretion, intelligence, and discernment, and the applicable laws that surround consensual acts. So therefore, it just had this ripple effect down the road of the rebirths, um, and subsequently compounding one's suffering to the point where it's unbearable. There's also um, articles of certain teenagers masturbating to the point where they die.
What?
Mhm.
That's not a great way to go.
Well,
And an awkward way to go.
they went, and I don't know how I came across those articles, but it was very pronounced, on the search bars. I think, no, I don't think that was on CNN. I can't remember. I mean, throughout my life, psychology was my major. I also studied sexology, um, marriage therapy. So, sex is a component in relationships. So I have to know these things, you know.
Yeah.
And sex is taboo and no one talks about it. And we have meditation to treat sexual disorders, like the 32parts.com, 32 meditation on the 32 parts of the body. Whatever we find attractive, we will find the unattractive nature to dispel that insatiable thirst and desire. Uh, so it's really, really, really sad to see that, to see people caving in to Mara, to the psychological demon Mara, Mara.
In a very aggressive way.
Violent, aggressive, sadistic way.
because I hear talk about Mara a lot, and I've always wondered: is Mara like a physical entity, or is Mara more of something that is within everybody, and it is he is kind of a thing you have to battle?
So Mara is that lawyer in your head.
Okay.
Mara is that voice in your head that says the teachings of the Buddha is crap. Enlightenment's not real. You'll never get there. Don't believe in it. Don't believe in rebirth. Venerable Chidao is trying to sell y'all something. Blah 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 blah. Okay. That's why in the five hindrances, doubt is one of them. Overcoming the five hindrances: laziness, torpor, sloth, doubt, anger. Um, because the Buddha have identified that lawyer in one's head, you know, in one's head. So therefore, you have to be strong, developing inclination. This is why we are the living monastic order. We have to keep the precepts, 227, in addition to the basic, ones, and so we have a lot of precept to keep. Why do we keep these precepts? Why are we considered holy men? Because we're trying to abstain from all of these things that could defile the mind. When you lay people see that we have dedicated our lives, our body, our speech, and our mind, our thoughts, for the benefit of other people, we're trying to strive towards the path of integrity and purity, then you have respect and you are inclined to be curious in the Dhamma. You start to ask questions like, what made this man give up everything for the holy path? He's sacrificing sensual pleasure, worldly pleasure. For what? For what reward that he's hoping to achieve? Enlightenment. Really? Is it true? Is it real? What is enlightenment? Right?
Hmm.
But we have arahants. That's why right behind me, everyone can see previous arahants. I mean, if Ajahn Mun can do it, why can't all of us do it? Enlightenment
Yeah.
is, and then you have practitioners like me who now confidently, after so many years of practice, tell all of you enlightenment is easy. Nirvana is easy to achieve, simple to achieve. I say that confidently, without mental reservations, confidently. So, and I hope to inspire all of you and realize that, hey, piece of cake, right? 84,000 teachings, the blah, 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 Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Path, Seven Factors of Enlightenment, Five Hindrances, the Four Jhanas, Four Foundations of Mindfulness. Let's do it. What do you have to lose? No, you don't really have much to lose. And what do you have to gain? A lot. Um, and what are you going to study anyways? You're going to keep on watching the Kardashians. You're going to follow P Diddy. You're going to follow J Lo and accumulate crap in your head. And keep on watching these reels of people shaking their butt, booty dancing. You want to take that with you? You want to reflect on how big J Lo's butt is, or I don't know. What do you want to reflect on in your old days, in your old age? Because the Dalai Lama, our great leaders, have said, live a good life now. You can relive it later when you're older. When you suffer a stroke, when you are on your deathbed, what do you want to think about? You want to think about J-Lo's butt? Or do you want to think about how many monasteries you have built? How many holy beings that you have supported? The holy life, giving and establishing schools and hospitals, and sit there and just reap what you have sowed in your life. Reap what you have sowed in your life. um so just reflect on that. It's beautiful. This path is beautiful. This path is easy to attain, and it's just beautiful the way that it is. And blessed are those who actually follow the simple instructions, because I know that they sit there and they just reap all this spiritual internal joy, like I have. And it's not about me, and I don't like to brag about me, but I've done a lot of good in my life. And I've also suffered a lot in my life. In the moments of suffering, I resorted back to the memories of me giving so much to so many people.
Yeah, the
And to
good
see,
things.
right, and to see them happy brought me time to figure myself out, and it brought joy and strength and empowerment and encouragement to pick myself up and keep going, and to never tired of giving, continuously giving every day. Now that I've come back from this overseas trip, every day now I reflect on what can I do to create more monasteries in Laos. You know, what can I do to make the world a better place? What can I do to create a new world? That's on my mind every day.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess that kind of like, so just so I understand correctly, not having doubt is, it's different than just saying, okay, I'll believe in this, or I guess the closest word I can think of is blind faith. It's not having doubt means that it has made sense to you and it's become a conviction, right?
Well, so when we talk about doubts, you have the right to have doubts. You have the right to be suspicious in the Buddha's teaching. It was an open invitation. The Buddha challenged all of us to prove him wrong. Once again, going back to the basics of the first noble truth, was the Buddha wrong when he said in life there is going to be suffering? Part of that suffering is birth, old age, disease, decay, and death. Birth, your own birth. When was the first time you popped out and you hit cold air and you was like, hell, somebody better put me back up in there because it cold up in here. I ain't trying to hang out here with y'all nurses trying to smack me, get me to scream. What's wrong with y'all? Okay. When you look at how real the Buddha was, when he spoke about these things, for us to examine decay and old age and the truth of suffering, the noble truth of suffering. So, this is how we develop faith, is going through the basics and then trying to prove the basics wrong. You can't go any, you try to prove the basics wrong. You can't.
Mm.
No one can. No one can prove the basics wrong. That's why it's called the Four Noble Truth. If someone proved it wrong empirically, academically, spiritually, Buddhism wouldn't survive 2,567 years later. I wouldn't be. I would hope to strike everyone that I'm a smart guy and I know what I'm talking about, unless you all adjudicate that I'm dumb, drunk at the time of this talk, under the influence of drug or alcohol, or mentally ill. Um, that I am trained at the District Court of Appeals, the second DCA. I've been a judicial officer under the capacity of an interpreter. So I've gone through so many classes and investigations, and so I'm like a trained investigator, and my job is to investigate the teachings of the Buddha. Do you think it's easy for anyone to fool me to becoming a monk? Do you think it's easy to fool me, the first noble truth? And my job fortifies and reinforces the noble truth every single day. I see suffering and I see the causes of suffering, and I share some of these with you all, and you all have heard it from other people from my one-on-one Buddhist psychotherapy sessions. So it's just like, there you have it. So any other doubt that comes back, that start playing lawyer cross-examination in your head, and you're like, no, it's not true. you know or one of the best Mara example is, so for example, me, right? So let's look at my mind body, right? It's like Venerable Chidao, or let me play a devil's advocate in my head. Venerable Chidao, you are still young, you still got energy, you still got sexual energy, you still got desire. Why don't you go out, get a girl, cute face, little waist with a big behind, and go and do what you do, and have fun, and then come back becoming a monk when you're 60, and then achieve enlightenment. Then all will be fine. You will not take rebirth. No.
I noticed that was a very big trend apparently during the Buddhist time, is that they would live these lavish lives, and then when they had an error, then they would decide to become a monk.
And let me tell you why I'm not gonna go out and find a cute face little waist with a big behind. Because number one, I fell in love 7 times in my life, at least 7 times in my life before I became a monk. So I did what the Buddha did. I pretty much replicated what the Buddha had done. All the partying, all of the alcohol in my college days, I've done it. So so yes, I did have sex. Yes, I did party. Yes, I did all these sinful things that all of us have done in our college days. And then I realized that it wasn't really that satisfying. And after that satisfaction, especially sex, it's like, what do we wake up to the next day? More BS, more headaches. All for what? The purpose of sex is to alleviate suffering and alleviate whatever the suffering or pain and sorrow, misery of life there is. I mean, it's like, yeah, you down, I'm down, let's do this. And then we did it. And then there's more desire born out of the other person. The other person gets attached, and all these dynamics of relationships and love, you know. And then you have sex again, and was it satisfying as the last time? You look at the satisfaction part of it, the first noble truth, dukkha, and you realize that, I think everyone can relate to the subject of sex. Again, it's taboo. Now we're gonna talk about sex. And it's like, yeah, it was good. Want more, and then the more you want it, the more tired you get, and then you just grow out of it. You just like my teacher said, Venerable Duke Min. He says it's like scratching an itch, right? The more you scratch an itch, the more you want more, and it's tiring and it's risky, and it compounds the attachment. It feels so good. I want her again. I keep on wanting this. I want it. Then we become controlling, and we become weird and controlling, and then the more things start giving birth on its own in your mind, fantasies, and then and it feels so good. You want, oh well, I wonder what it's like to have two girls in bed instead of one. So more desire, more suffering. Oh, okay, well, now that I want two girls in bed, let me find out how I'm going to convince the first one that it's okay to have two in bed instead of just one. So of course, people use their intelligence all sorts of ingenious ways to like get what they want, to scratch this itch. And it's just like, go ahead, Tom, Dick, Harry, go ahead, get yourself in trouble, go ahead, you think you slick, go ahead. you know so you look at the tangle, and see how much we tangle this hairball, like a cat spitting out a hairball. It's just like we really complicated our lives over satisfaction and desire. All right, so going back, and then of course I was able to replicate the teachings of the Buddha in regards to relationships, because I get to watch divorces unfold. I hear all these stories. So again, I encourage everyone to go out and volunteer, go to divorce court, talk to divorce lawyers. If you want to get yourself in trouble with relationships, well, why don't you consult someone who is a relationship expert, and they will tell you what to expect and what not to expect. And then, you get wisdom. And then why would you want to lấy cái khổ làm cái vui? Lấy cái khổ, taking suffering to make it pleasurable. Why would you take suffering in and try to make it pleasurable? It's a very profound saying in Vietnamese, in Vietnam. Lấy cái khổ làm cái vui. When I say that to Vietnamese people, oh, they're like, damn, he's wise. He's been there. Once again, why would you take suffering and try to make it fun?
Maybe it's because I feel like there just comes a point where you compound on the suffering to try to cover up the previous stuff. Because, like, I was thinking about this a couple of days ago when I was just sitting at urgent care again, looking out the window and just, like, watching the world pass. And I just kept thinking over and over again how much pointlessly complicated we have made life. And in our heads, we think that it has to be this way, or that these are signs of progress. But I think, like, they're very thinly hidden amongst that progress is a lot of backward sloping, and we don't realize how consumed we are being getting by things that don't ultimately matter, but they just feel like they do.
They feel
But
like they do.
instead of recognizing that and reflecting on it, we're just gonna compound on that, and we're gonna cover that up with other things that we need, but do we really?
Right. So, so I've tried all these things in life, and I realized that my greatest joy is becoming a monk, to give it all up, and I just and then to see other monks also lead the holy life, and to see other people live a life of that type of sacrifice and example, and to see that they have turned away from sensual desire. It just gives you more spiritual joy and strength. It gives you this spiritual Red Bull. And then I come back and I share all these stories with all of you about that one 20-year-old monk in maroon robes that I got to video record. Uh, and I've never seen that type of a posture of him sitting and meditating. And I was just like, oh my God, that is a 20-year-old saint that has perhaps entered the stream of enlightenment. I was just like, wow, if he's like that at age 20, wow, I can't wait to see his face again, to be long poor, great venerable father to all of us, you know, and to also examine all the other most venerables and play jokes on them and be like, do you want to disrobe and get married? And they're like, no. And the way they look at me dead in my eyes, and I said no.
Yeah.
And the information that they voluntarily said when I kept quiet, and then the self-disclosure that they've made, like, my mom died, my dad left me everything. I don't want it. I gave it all to my siblings. I became a monk. I'm the only one that became a monk out of 6 people. And I sit there and then I start questioning, and I'm like, I'll be damned. And you just watch their life unfold, and it's beautiful. The word renunciation is so beautiful. It's so beautiful, and I wish that you all would travel, and once again, we're traveling to replicate the teachings of the Buddha and really make sense of the spiritual life, and it would just change your life for the better once you're there.
I can't imagine how clear everything becomes when you simplify life.
Yeah.
And you see the reality. That's what I hope to witness.
Yeah. And the one thing that I really enjoy living in this life, and what this life could afford for me, was the mindfulness aspect of it. And once I had graduated at my dad's office and working these cases where people are not seeing things and the way they paint this picture, I'm like, do you even hear yourself, madam? Let me tell you what you just told me, and you tell me if this makes sense to you, because this is your story, not mine. I'm just hearing it. You're right. You see everything unfolding so clearly, like a script. Mindfulness is amazing.
I had so right after my accident, I was driven to work so that I could have somewhere to actually physically stand while I try to figure out my next steps. And everyone kept coming up to me and saying over and over again, you should have rolled on the ground and acted like you were really injured. You could have milked this truck driver for everything he had, and you could have gotten some real money out of it. And I looked at them one point. I was like, do you guys even understand what you're saying? And
Right.
they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you want me to destroy another person's life for an accident that thankfully neither person was hurt in, which is all that really matters, is that both of us came out of it okay.
Right.
And he made a dumb mistake, but he's human, and it happens. And you want me to just they were talking about him getting fired, and I'm like, are you crazy? I'm not malicious like that. they were talking about getting payouts, and I'm like, the amount of suffering that you guys would cause, that you would compound on for a selfish gain, it was just mind-boggling. And they thought I was crazy that I wouldn't do that.
Right. Um. Yeah, people just don't think. Yeah, so that's the problem when people don't think. And once again, generating unwholesome thoughts uh, already constitutes negative karma.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even have, like, even during, like, right after the accident, I still never thought anything ugly about him.
Yeah.
Like, was I frustrated that I was in that situation? Yeah, but, like, I didn't start saying, like, F this truck driver, he's a crappy driver. And when the cop came up, I explained it logically, like, what happened. He made a mistake, he didn't see me, and, this is what happened. You can physically see what happened. And, like, I was shocked by how many people wanted me to, like, milk this guy for everything he had. I was like, first of all, he's a truck driver, so he's probably driving 18, 19 hours places to feed his family, and he's just living his life.
Right. So this is why it is important for all of us to reel ourselves back into the practice and recognizing where we are at this age and stage, and try to attain this thing quickly before your
Mm.
memory no longer serves you. Before you have Alzheimer's, mild cognitive impairment, dementia, all of the things that life's going to come at you very fast, very quick, and then at that point you don't have a chance to undo karma or the what if you could wind up in a wheelchair tomorrow? You're not be able to do much. You're going to be limited in the things that you want to do in order to alleviate your karma. um so therefore that's why we have to reel ourselves back in, and not take for granted uh the aspect of, yeah, I'm young, I got energy, YOLO, one life, I got one life to live. Yeah, that you kick it, whatever. Let me plug this in. Whatever you calculate, just don't miscalculate. And a lot of people every day miscalculate.
Yeah, they say you only live once, and then proceed to do something really dumb.
Every day they miscalculate. Every day I watch them miscalculate. Just appalling. Some of the if someone followed me with a GoPro for just like a week, they would hear all the collective stories. And I'm telling you, you all would just, it would be better than HBO. Some of the things that people tell me, and I'm just like, some days I'm just too exhausted to even explain or even challenge their Mara, their lawyer in their head. It's just like, all right, Tom, you just keep on believing that.
You're like, I don't even know where to go with that.
I'm exhausted. This is like, I don't have the next hour to explain the Four Noble Truths to you.
Read this pamphlet.
See you in the next life. I have compassion, but I'm exhausted. Just, what I mean? It's just like, and then, yeah, so, all right. Any other questions in Buddhism?
No, I think I'm good for now. Oh, I actually did have one that I actually took in a book I read a couple years ago, and I was just kind of flipping through it. But I made a note about, like, I asked the question, what is the perfect human? And I'm kind of compounding off of that now, a little bit more knowledge. But, like, so I understand that, the Buddha teaches, live the Four Noble Truths to attain enlightenment. But that would not define a perfect human. Is there really do we believe in perfection in the sense of, like, modern times?
No.
Not even, like, the Buddha wouldn't even be considered perfection.
He is, but we're not, and
The rest of us aren't.
we're probably not going to get to that Sama Sambuddho definition. However, we will try our best, just like I told all of you. is that my job is to lead you all into enlightenment, if not close to it. So if not perfection itself, close to perfection. And we will be content, happy, and satisfied knowing that we did the best that we could with the people that we were with, the resources available to us, and the time that we had. With the time that I have with all of you, with what this life could afford to all of you, and for the remaining balance of your natural living life. Let that sit for a second of what I just said, of what this life could afford to you, and the remaining balance of your natural living life. So, I couldn't make any. I've led by example since I was little. Above on my right here is a governor's award. My whole life I strove for excellence, and so should all of you. And what the Buddha said was excellence in the beginning, excellence in the middle, and excellence towards the end. And that we will do. We will do that victoriously. Period. And that's the affirmation that everyone should have, is that, yeah, makes sense to me. This man did it himself. So I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna come back to the teachings of the Buddha. There is a method, and I'm gonna follow that method. And blessed are those who heed the advice of the wise. Period. End of story. Right? So um but strive to get close to it. The word perfection should never scare you. The word excellence should never scare you. It should be welcoming and challenging. Embrace that challenge. That I can do big, great things. And if it is challenging, then it's worth it. Because if life is too easy, then if anything is too easy, we would be lazy and there's no meaning and purpose in life. So,
That makes sense.
but and don't let that perfection thing scare you. You are who you are. And if you cannot be perfect or close to perfect, then give more and take less. If you fell short, or you don't have the capacity or academic or cognitive capacity to understand the Four Noble Truth, then do what everybody else is doing. They realize their shortcomings, they realize their karma, they, they realize their karma, and they realize that, well, maybe I maybe I have poor roots, and or I'm incapable of understanding the Four Noble Truth, but at least the last teaching of the Buddha is give more and take less, and I can improve my karma. Then it's the most simplest and fastest way to do so. And hopefully, as I do this, certain things will change, and one day, miracle happens, and I'm able to understand and let go of greed, anger, and ignorance quickly, so that I can attain arahantship. And that's what people do over Southeast Asia. They're poor, they're limited in understanding the Dhamma. They know that. They know their shortcomings, they know their limitations. So they practice on what they can, which is giving more and taking less. Especially the alms, giving monks food, rice, and everything else. They practice all the little tiny things that makes them so happy, because they realize they're one step closer to excellence, one step closer to letting go of greed. They start doing the checklist: greed, anger, ignorance. Well, let's focus on greed, and eventually wisdom will arise. The threefold training. They focus on greed, which is generosity, and they also focus on the first fold training, which is sila. And once again, I've shared this with all of you, how they chant over and over again the five precepts. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa, and then followed by the precepts, pana dipata, and it's so beautiful when it's done, because the monks are training them, going through the checklist: sila, samadhi, panya, and then the monks sit there and meditate. So they lead them into sila, and then boom, let's go to samadhi. And then subsequently they realize they will get to panya, they will get to wisdom.
Mm.
And they just rejoice. They just go to the monastery, they just rejoice. Every time they see a monk, they realize I am one step closer to enlightenment. And they don't think anything more of it. They don't complicate their mind. They just think simple. The monk says, the explanation of that what they give, and these people just rejoice in great happiness.
Hmm.
So, Miss Bree, believe that the teacher sitting in front of you have given you simple instructions on how to do that.
Yes.
And oh, and by the way, let me help you realize what you have done. You came as a student who was not well versed in the Four Noble Truths. You were instructed to give more and take less, and thus you did. As a direct result of what you did, you and other people donating what you could, now you go back to my Facebook, and I want you to see all the videos that I just shared from Venerable uh, Bun, and look at the monastery and the primary school. Look how dirt poor they are. That's where the money went.
Oh.
And look at the faces of those children running around setting up the plastic chairs, and look at how happy they are, just how happy they are. Look at the tents that you all provided for them, shielding them from the blazing hot sun. That's what you did tonight before you go to sleep. That's what you did. You did this to those people. You gave them a tent. You gave them water. So if you were to die tomorrow on your deathbed, these are some of the last memories that you have received. I guarantee you, there's no way you're going to take unfavorable rebirth.
I sure hope not.
But that's what brings happiness to those people over there when they donate food to the monks, because they realize that we are preserving the monk's body so that they can continue serving the people, and they
Mm.
just die so happy. Everyone just dies so happy. They live happy, they die happy. Simplicity never could not make it any more simple than that, than the threefold training.
I'm gonna go watch those videos now.
Yeah, yeah. You watch very carefully. Look at everything that I have shared on both accounts, on the orange account and the red account. Just look carefully at what Don do primary school, and just look at all of what they're doing. Look at all of what they're doing, and realize that they're all in it, entering enlightenment. They're all in nirvana in those moments of giving and rejoicing and just happy. And what this very moment makes me happy is that we're in a recession, we're in inflation, deflation, whatever is going on with the economy, and yet they still build new monasteries over there. They still give. Oh God, they give even more.
Mm.
What do we do here in the West? I
Not do
can't.
that.
Yeah. This also back to the me, mine, the I, the practice of the non-self, the fortification of the self. So therefore, we continue to suffer. Nothing is ever enough for us.
They do like anything. We do like anything but that. I feel like.
Right. Right. And I went over there and I have asked questions about the economy. I was going up, down, how COVID affects all of you. Like it doesn't exist in Laos. They're dirt poor and they're still able to build monasteries. And just some of the things that is unfolding, just amazing. Just amazing. They just focus on giving and they just care less about what comes tomorrow. If I don't got food to eat tomorrow, and if I die hungry tomorrow, Felicia, I die happy tomorrow knowing that I just donated $5 to that monastery, and that monastery is going to serve as an orphanage for all the novice monks and everybody else to live, and I'm going to take rebirth, and wherever I go, I go. Bye. They live with that attitude.
That's a good attitude to have. I literally hear when I give, I get
Unbelievable.
discouraged from that because they're scamming me. They put themselves in
Right.
that position. They deserve what they get, and there's just not a concept of in this in this area in this culture. There's not and there's not a concept of that could be me.
Mm.
Like there's this idea that I deserve a life of comfort. Like I somehow earned that,
Mm.
and that those other people that I look down on, that could never be me.
Mm.
And how, like, I've talked to people, I've talked to I've talked to successful people that are homeless, and it's just the moment they were in life, like the simple things that just went wrong all at once that put them in that position. I couldn't get out of it, because once you're homeless, it's very hard not to be homeless. And it was shocking hearing their stories of how quickly that turned around. And I always keep that in the back of my head, because that could very quickly, very easily become me. And I just hope that somebody had the same compassion for me.
Right. So so that's why I wanted to live in Laos, just because yeah, I don't think about anything else anymore. I am literally in enlightenment with them. It's like I don't, we don't, I just all these things here disappears, and
Then you come
the
back to the U.S.
and, and and the reciprocity of the monastic order serving the people and the people serving the monastery. It's like we literally create our own heaven there, the heaven that the Buddha imagined for all of us, and the heaven that he experienced, and the instructions that he gave to the lay people and to us. It's beautiful. Life's great. Life's beautiful, and it was. And I shared that with all of you through my video. I'm just like, oh my god, look at what we're doing. I'm just like, what? They don't care about anything. And I was trying to buy a mask because it was dusty throughout our trip on the truck. And I'm like, can I get COVID mask? And I said the word COVID. And I'm like, Venerable Don, what do you guys think about COVID? The way how he said this was so funny. He says, Lao people, COVID, Lao people don't care. Lao people don't care. Oh my-
They're like, if it happens, it happens.
Nobody sheds a tear when a person dies, like the two funerals that came to our monastery, because they lived their life to the exact teachings of the Buddha. So there was no regret. They actually,
Oh, I love
it's
that.
actually like a party when someone dies. Just the way they chant, the way how they sit there and they embrace the monks coming in. We were like angels coming in. We were like holy angels coming into their house, blessing their loved ones for the departed. And I have never seen anybody cry in the two funerals. I've never seen anybody cry. They were just like, oh well, that's first noble truth, and they embraced it. They give even more, and then and then they dispersed for another day of giving again. I was just like, you guys are in enlightenment. Enlightenment is here in the now, here. And I've been waiting my whole life to share this moment with all of you, and I did, and I want to go back, except with AC, but
But I think that works, because, and it works so beautifully because everybody does it, and everybody has the same mindset of give more, take less.
even the police
It's
op-
so
yeah, like I said, even the police officers, when we were en route from north to south and south to north in Laos, and I sat in the front, and as soon as they seen the monk, they're like, keep going, we don't need to search you. We're not
just
going to
keep
give
on
monk time. And the faith of the people was just amazing. The poorest country in the world, where enlightenment is no different than the days of the Buddha, the poorest of the poorest.
I
And
mean,
it's
I think that's proof alone that material gain does not prove happiness. And for some
unbelievable,
reason, we define it that way.
unbelievable. Love it. And even though I'm not there right now, the fact that I'm rejoicing in the memory of what I witnessed and how I felt about just being there, never leave my mind, never leave my heart. I light up like a Christmas tree when I talk about it over and over again, perpetual over and over again. So, save up. I just want to grab all of y'all to come with me, and no more of this nonsense, self-image, self-performance, comparison, social isolation, loneliness. disparities, inequality, injustice, police shootings. It's just so much going on. It's tiring. It's just like, oh my God, it's so tiring. It's, and on Easter they were shooting here in St. Petersburg where I lived. You know, this guy who just got out of prison decided to just grab a gun and shoot this old man, and then shot at a police officer. And in the video, I have never heard St. Pete Police say 1024. That means everybody need to get here now. We have an officer down. That is like super emergency. And when I saw that recording, I was like, oh my God. Shootings on Easter.
Yeah.
How about y'all need to open store? I love Christ, by the way. I love Christ. Maybe on Easter we should sell more cross and make people wear these cross around their neck to remind them that it is Easter, the day of the resurrection of Jesus, celebration of the resurrection of Jesus. You kill, you don't keep the commandments, you kill, thou shalt not kill, and you try to kill a police officer and some guy that is barely opening his eyes. This guy was like legally blind or partial blind, mowing his
Oh my gosh.
yard in South St. Pete. Like, what? That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. That's the world we live in. Do you guys want to live in a world like this? The monastery I was staying even have no gates.
Well, they're not expecting someone to break in. No one's gonna do that.
No gates. The no gates anywhere from the back to the front. And I'm just like, I wasn't used to it. And I'm just like,
You're like, I'm an American. Are we safe?
And you have to also think the fact that the government there let monasteries cremate bodies. That means there is no foul play.
Yeah.
Apparently I had information that Vietnam used to do it, but government stepped in because obviously the smarter they are, the more clever they are. And the more clever they are, the more they kill, the more they steal. And then they drag the body that they just killed to a monastery, give money to the monastery to burn this body and get rid of the evidence. That don't happen in Laos.
No.
Because if it happened often, the government would be like, these no monasteries allowed to cremate bodies. We're gonna go through the American way, which is death certificate, autopsies, toxicology reports. So that's why my heart fell in love with Laos. I want to go back. It's just like you just think, put all these together, and I'm telling you, this is their nirvana. This is how they live their life.
Not gonna be on my list of places to go.
Girl, you save all the dime and nickel that you got. You have to experience this in this lifetime with the energy that you have now while you're still young. Do not wait till you're 40, 50, 60, 70 years old and go. It's time. I'm telling you. Venerable Chi Dao is 37 and I was running out of breath. And I took videos of me running out of breath, climbing them stairs up the monasteries. I did. They all got a kick out of it. I says, American monk, out of shape. And everybody looked at that video and they got a kick out of it. So while you're young, go and experience enlightenment. Go to try to prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. Go there.
I'll go the exact place you went and that you FaceTime me with, and I'll be like, hey, you remember me?
I'm sitting in the chair that you were sitting.
I'm not American girl.
I love it. I love it. I just love it. So so talks like this helps you fortify and reinforces faith in the monastic order, the triple gem. Buddhang saranang gacchami, dhammang saranang gacchami. And when you see some of these chants that we give, it's like people really rejoicing when they hear these words. Going to refuge in the Buddha, refuge in the Dhamma, refuge in the Sangha. And then the chant goes on, Dutiyambi Buddhang. For the second time, I go to the Buddha for refuge, teaching of the Buddha for refuge. the monastic order. And then Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami for the third time. It's like, yeah, make sure you get it 3 times. It's just beautiful. And that's how we defeat doubt in the hindrances that we previously talked about today. You looking at me every time we talk, you listening to me every time we talk, is me giving you ammunition to defeat Mara in your head when you have doubts.
Definitely.
And if you didn't
I mean, I
feel
think
and if you didn't feel good about giving to this monk and the monastic order and to the triple gem, you would have been like, I'm really tired of giving. I don't feel good giving anymore. I'm going to stop calling Venerable Jidao. I'm going to go find another faith, philosophy, or religion. And yet we are still here
yeah.
2 years later. A year? A year or two?
I think it's 2 now.
Oh my God. 2 years.
Well, it's also like, and I could feel it this past week, which is it was because like everybody was like anxious for me, and I was like, and the entire time, all I kept saying was, I'm alive, and that's what's important. And like everyone was like, why are you so calm? And like, why aren't you more angry? And I'm like, anger is not going to solve anything.
Mhm.
I'm alive. That's what's important. And I definitely would not have had that reaction if I hadn't been having these teachings for as long as I have. Like I was
Ah.
very calm and at peace about the whole thing. I was like, it could have been so much worse.
I've done my job. Oh my God, Saint Bree has progressed. I'm retiring. This is Venerable Ajahn Chidao. I am retiring as of what's today's date? What's today's date? I don't even know today's date. April 7th, 2024. Exactly. What's the time? What's the time? At 9:54 p.m. Florida Eastern Standard Time. I'm retiring. I've done my job. I've done everything that the Buddha have asked of me to do. And oh, goodbye.
They're going back to Laos.
Yes.
It was amazing though.
You know the other thing that's amazing? Anna from Michigan, when she was a state trooper, she was like 23 years old, state trooper, and a girl rear end her state trooper's car while she was trying to get coffee in the morning, and
Oh, no.
and Trooper Anna got out and taught her how to meditate, and called me and said, "Venerable, I went to your class, and this happened this morning," and she was still a rookie. And she says, yeah, I got rear-ended while I was working, and I got out and I taught her how to meditate because she was freaking out that she hit a cop car.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Hell, I should have retired a long time ago, just because when I heard that, I was like, oh, I've done my job.
I did it. That's awesome.
Because every other human would respond differently, especially being a cop is really tough, and you hear complaints every day, and now someone just rear end your car. We call that department signal 4, which is department car crash. That's a lot of paperwork. Your boss is coming out. Your
Yeah.
boss is coming out. So no one's gonna have a good day then. And it's on the record, and if you get it to a wreck again, God Lord knows, and then you'd be reprimanded and training, and they're gonna question you like, why are you keep on getting these crashes? You've been on the job for 2 years, so you got 3 already. What's going on? The department has to pay insurance, So you get those kind of news. No, but she came out and disregard for her own reputation helps this girl that rear-ended her how to meditate. How beautiful is that? What we don't hear those kind of stories circulating, but it happened.
Well, because she showed compassion. She like recognized like that she was freaking out. I mean, I would freak out too. That's when you start questioning: am I even a legal citizen here? Am I about to get deported somewhere? Like questioning your entire existence. Yeah. I was doing that when the cops showed up in my accident. I was like, do I have my license on me? Where is that?
So yeah, in essence, Buddhism teaches you how to chill, and and to deal with life better. We meditate so that we deal life better. We don't meditate to get better at meditation, and that's what it is. It just keeps you calm, cool headed, and stop creating negative karma.
Yeah.
Very good. You handled it well. I had no doubt. And even if you, let's say, even if you entered Nirvana, you would have entered Nirvana knowing that you were a saint, and your legacy would have lived on because I'm still alive, and all of my teachings is still alive, and all of my teaching will circulate through the hundreds and thousands, and they all would have known who Saint Bree was.
Yeah.
And that's why I do what I do. As soon as I realize this is a beautiful human being, just for the choices that you willfully made in your life, under this school, you will become a saint, and thus you were, and thus you are. And even if you did lose your life as a direct result of that car accident, your memory would have lived on, and all the actions that you've done would have inspired thousands of people.
Well,
Case closed.
guess it could. I guess could be worse outcomes.
Right. This is why when I was at the monastery and I started giving talks on life and legacy for that matter, it's like, what have you done for humanity that you could feel good? And if you died, how would you want to be remembered? I keep on repeating myself with this life and legacy thing over and over and over again. For instances like this, you versus a semi truck, young lady, let that sink in for a second.
Yeah. If I had a small car, it would not have turned out the same way.
So be that example that we all are waiting for all of you to become fruitions of the fruit that we need. Learn, give the knowledge that excels any other gifts, which is the gift of knowledge, the gift of the Dhamma. Learn the Four Noble Truth, teach it, inspire millions, and then die. That you would have been a saint.
Hopefully, enter Nirvana and not have to be reborn.
Right. But come, learn, teach, and teach, and teach. Conquer, and then leave. I came, I conquered, and then I left. Done.
That sounds like an awesome life.
The totality of one human life, the completion of one human life. Think about that. The completion of one life cycle in this very life. Victorious. Excellence in the beginning, excellence in the middle, excellence towards the end. I have completed this life cycle. So, it just prompts leadership in you, leadership in all of you. Um, because that's my challenge for all of you. I know all of you who are sitting here and watching and listening, you all are this close to becoming enlightened because they've already had that conversation with themselves that, I'm at this stage where I need to learn about spirituality, about myself, about what is it in the teachings of the Buddha that I want to grow. I want to change. I want to be better. I want to deal with my emotions. This is what you all need. It's this empowerment and this encouragement, constant, never tiring encouragement that you all can be leaders. You all can sit in my chair. You all are going to supersede this teacher. You all are going to be better than Venerable Chidao. So damn it, after this talk, read the Four Noble Truths. Master the darn thing. And then call me and say, I'm ready for my exam. And then I give you this great blessing, the ability to teach the Four Noble Truths, and then go out and teach and teach and teach. And then you go to bed and then you realize, if I don't wake up tomorrow, I've taught to thousands. I'm happy with that. Peace out. Peace out and bliss out. Beautiful. That is a life well lived.
Yeah.
So it's getting later, and you didn't have that. You had a lot going on in your life this week, so I will write you an excusable pass, an excusable hall pass. Leave you the remaining balance of tonight to read up a little bit on the biography of the Buddha as instructed. And we shall reconvene in the next week. And hopefully life will be less hectic, and State Farm write you a big check. And you get, what's the next vehicle you're going to get, young lady?
Oh, I'm definitely going to get another Outback. The first Outback saved my butt.
Subi. You're going to get another Subi.
Another Subi.
I had a student, a young student that had a Subi. It was what is it? SI? What was it? I don't even know my cars. Um,
There's like WRX. There's a cross track, Taurus.
WRX, and they all were talking about, they have cute names like Subi, and they
Those
talk
are nice
about the little
cars.
keychain that you guys get, the little Subi clubs and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So hell, I'm happy just walking barefoot down the road with, or a bicycle. I call it Chevrolegs,
Legs.
or a bicycle called Lamborghinis, Lamborghinis. Bike myself down the road, but hey, maybe karma is rewarding you with something nicer and well deserving because of all the givings that you have done. Ever thought about it that way?
I actually did. I was like, cause I was like, maybe I'll finally be because when my first car, I didn't have the option of a color because I had to get a car then. But I was like, maybe I can get the color I always wanted.
Yeah.
A little reward for not dying.
Yeah. So keep up the good work, and the challenge, try to finish that book in the next month,
Okay, next month.
because
I think I can do that.
there's so much more to read, and I want you to merge. Once you finish that book, you're going to dive into the life of the Buddha again, but from the Pali Canon, which is very different from that book. That book summarizes what the Pali Canon says, but now we're going to go dense, analytical, because by reading more intermediate, it forces you to be mindful. It forces you to reflect. It forces you to investigate what is being said in this book right now. And
Hmm.
so it's part of the training, how to tame the mind, how to bring the mind into awareness by and through effective reading. Dang, I should have done a TikTok video on that. But yes, so embrace the next chapters to come.
Okay.
And by the way, did you review the Four Noble Truths?
The day before my accident, actually, I read over it again. But since then, I'm not. But that is my plan for this week coming up because I'm planning on diving back into everything now that for the most part, everything's kind of calmed down now. So now insurance is taking over and doing most of their stuff. So
All right. So I'm just gonna throw this out there, and if you catch it, you catch it, and everybody else who's watching, if you catch it, you catch it. Which is, if you cannot remember elements of the Four Noble Truths, the first Noble Truth, the second Noble Truth, write it down 10 times.
okay,
There is
right
suffering
now.
in life because there's old age, death, disease, decay. There is suffering in life, death, birth, death, disease, decay. Okay? So write it 10 times. You will remember them. All should be able to recite it. Just write it out. I think that's the problem, is that people don't write it out.
That brings me back trauma because I don't know if your parents did this, but my parents went through a phase where if I did something wrong, they'd make me write it 1,000 times.
Well, that's where we learn the art of letting go of old memories, and we establish Venerable Chidao's new instructions, and try not to have PTSD on the art of writing. This is where we have to learn how to let things go because it no longer serves us. And the art of letting go is beautiful and quick and effective and easy. Let it go. I don't care what they said to me. Venerable Chidao gave me a holy order. That holy order is write down the first noble truth 10 times this week. Next week, I'm going to write down the second noble truth
10 times. I mean,
10
that's not as
times.
bad as 1,000 times. So
This is the same instructions I give when I'm teaching the citizenship class for those who wants to take the citizenship class and they want to master the 100 civics questions. What is the highest? Oh my God! Why? Hold on. What is the Constitution of the United States? The supreme law of the land. Okay. How many justices are on the Supreme Court? Who is the Chief Justice? It's the longest river in the United States. What borders Mexico? What borders Canada? So I tell them, there's 100 questions each week. Write out 10. By 10 weeks, you have all 100.
you write each one 10 times.
And if you write down the question and the answer, the word Constitution, what happens if the USCIS officer ask you to write the word Constitution, or at least you remember it, darling.
At least you can spell it.
Right. So these are my general recommendation for not just in Buddhism, but also other areas of life, such as traffic law and immigration stuff that I'm, teaching every day. So yeah, so don't feel left out. So and I also write it down. I'm
And don't get me wrong, it works because I still remember to this day what I had to write down as a kid.
yes,
So it's effective, nothing else.
yes, 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 and yes. Ooh, we're, ooh, my dad's gonna be in it for a surprise. You guys are catching a sample of my life here at the office. Ooh, you better pay your employees. This week, her payout was $734. So I need for you to Zelle me another $200 so that I can compensate your employee. So I'm managing my dad's staff, and she left me this note on here, and that's his problem. Ain't my problem. Ain't my problem. my problem is to teach the Four Noble Truth. Okay, so yes, I'm very proud of you, Miss Bree, and for all those who are studying the Four Noble Truth. You all make me sleep very well at night. I'm so happy as a teacher in this lifetime, in this one life cycle. The greatest joy is being a teacher, and part of being a teacher is having wonderful students like y'all and you, Miss Bree. I went to New York to see you. Venerable San Paula is in New York right now. I hope one day you get to meet him and he gets to meet you. So
Yeah, I love that.
have a good night, and I can't wait to talk to you next week. Okay?
Sounds good.
New Subi on the way. Just think about that.
Fingers crossed.
Take care. Good night.
Have a good night.
Bye bye. Oh, you all make me so happy. Good students, do the homework, get enlightened. That completes one life cycle in this lifetime. Just want you all to be enlightened. That's all. That's all. I know you all have. Okay, so you guys have questions here. Um, I probably won't be able to get through all of them. I've had a very busy Sunday. Was invited to a Unity Church, interfaith type deal. Laos New Year, so I've been all over the city today, and I, still light up like a Christmas tree because I'm talking to wonderful students and all of you wonderful listeners. I see all these numbers, on my screen, like 100 here on TikTok, 120 on TikTok, and a few here and there. It makes me happy. Darn it, I forgot Instagram. Darn it, forgot to do Instagram. Um, you all can get with me directly on my cell phone. Right now, I'm not that busy. Life's a little chill right now. So 727 727 You can get with me on Facebook. Linktree on all of my social media has a link tree. You can connect with me on Facebook if you like message. My email is the number one Vietnamese interpreter, at Gmail. How are we going to start our conversation? If you are new, I'd like to meet you where you're at in life. Name, age, where you're from, how you grew up, family support system, any existence of stress. How did you find out about Buddhism? How long have you been following me? And we go from there. I meet you where you're at. I give you recommendations. Check in with me every week or every 2 weeks, and then have conversations like this, like wonderful Bree from Virginia and other students. That's it. Life is groovy. Life is great. I teach for free or do not charge money. I cannot ask you for anything except for a cup of water. 227 rules as a monk. That's it. Simple life. So I'd like to conclude my talk for tonight. Thank you all for being wonderful listeners. It is my joy serving the people. And I can't wait to read my messages and emails as it comes in for uh, all of you new students. And yes, you can be Christian and Buddhist. A lot of that, I invite you all to go back to the library of teachings on my YouTube. A lot of repetitive questions, but please forgive me as today's been a very long day with Laos New Year. If I was a robot, you all know that I would sit here the entire night talking about all of this and answering all of your questions. But I hope to reconvene with you all tomorrow, perhaps, or the next day. Um, I do have an Ocala case, so I do have to drive 4 hours tomorrow. So depending on how this efficiency of this body, I will answer your questions. Um, how long does it take to get enlightened? Not that long. Not with Venerable Chidao's method, tell you that. Okay. All right. Good night, folks. I love all of y'all. Take care of yourself until the very next time. My blessings to all of you. May you all be well, be happy, be free, and always be healthy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And to all of my Laos people, Happy New Year to all of you. Laos won my heart out of the three countries that I just came back from. That's all you all got to know. So, my blessings and Happy New Year once again. Take care.